Parents, what's the creepiest thing your kid has ever said or done? Picked him up from daycare when he was 3. Driving home, totally quiet, him just staring out the window. He randomly asks, "Hey dad, remember that time we died in a fire?" My 3-year-old daughter was going through the monsters under her bed phase. Lasted 4 weeks, and it was really wearing on her mom and me. One night after mom tried to put her to bed, she tagged me in. After 30 minutes, I grew pretty frustrated. In a last-ditch attempt, I promised my daughter that there weren't any monster under her bed. She replied, "I know. Now they're behind you." After that, I'll let her sleep with us for a week. I told my now 7-year-old, when he was 3, that daddy eats monsters. Eats him right up. The whole monster. I give them a chance. One chance to make 2 choices. Either be nice, or go away. If not, dad is gonna eat him right up. I've made a big show of pretending to eat a monster, and even forced out a big burp when I was done. I've heard him yell a couple different times, "You better go away, or be nice or my dad is gonna eat you up." I used to have sleep paralysis. Still get it from time to time, but it was worse when I didn't know what sleep paralysis was and thought I was being dealt with by demons or ghosts or something. I woke up an ex-girlfriend once by yelling at some shadowy figure that I was going to eat your ducking soul. But ever since that happened, the sleep paralysis sessions were less intense. Then I learned what sleep paralysis actually is, and that lots of other people have it. So, I know there's no such thing as monsters, but if there is, I'm gonna duck and eat them, and I think they know it. My 12-year-old comes up to me visible shaken, and said that she thinks she saw someone in the bathroom. I asked her to clarify, and she said, when she walked past, it looked like someone ducked into the shower. Mind you, it was just her, and I at home at that time, since my husband was at work. So, we have a Doberman named Rango, and I have him follow me to the hallway, where the bathroom is. My adrenaline is pumping hard, and as I quietly and slowly crept to the bathroom, I stopped a few feet away from the door, and looked at Rango. He looks at me, and I point to the bathroom. I shit you not, he ducking understood loud and clear what I wanted, and he looks at the bathroom and slowly and carefully stalked towards the bathroom with the fur on his back raised. When I saw him react like this, I was convinced someone was in there, and my heart started racing. Once he made it over the bathroom threshold, he paused and leaned his body in as he sniffed the air, and one step at a time, he slowly crept in, leaning and sniffing. Once he made it all the way in, he became more comfortable and relaxed and looked in the shower sniffing around. Then he just looked at me like really, and did that huff thing dogs do through their nose, and walked right past me out of the bathroom looking somewhat irritated. But for good measure, I had him check the rest of the rooms just in case. I heard the 1-year-old's high chair move, even though nobody was near it. I asked the 3-year-old, what was that? And he said, while pointing to the chair, what is she doing here? A kid once sat near a campfire and seemed to be lost in thoughts. I asked what he is thinking about. This 6-year-old said, I wish I was high up in space and the whole world was on fire. That would be beautiful. Apostrophe. My special needs son has made so many comments about keeping my body when I die. I've considered specifically putting info into the will to make sure it doesn't ever happen. I want to play Frozen, but only the part where the parents die in a shipwreck. Apostrophe. Not my kid, but a neighbor, maybe 7 to 8 years old. Hey mister, so much coffee, what you doing? Bringing in groceries, dude. Can I come inside your house? Oh, nah buddy, I'm busy, and your mom would wonder where you went. I don't think she'd like that too much. You mean I really can't? Yeah bud. Sorry, maybe another time, when your mom knows where you're at. I'm gonna use my gun and put a virus in your brain so that you die. Yep, alright ETH whelp, groceries bye now. My 3-year-old son said, next time I'm a baby, I want to have green eyes. I asked him if he had been a different baby before being who he currently is, and he squinted his eyes, looked at me like I was an idiot, and said, yes, papa. Apostrophe. I have twin daughters. One day while playing outside, one looked up at the sky and said, the sky is cracked and on fire. My other daughter looked up and said, yes. The people are screaming. Then they went back to playing with dolls. Fingers crossed they're not predicting the future, everybody. When my daughter was around 4 years old, she had a habit of waking me up by getting 4 inches from my face and staring at me until I opened my eyes. Once my eyes opened, she'd say, "Mommy, your face is pretty. I want to wear it on my face." "Okay, Hannibal, let's get some breakfast." It's 1 in the morning. I'm dead asleep with my wife in the living room reading. All of a sudden the baby monitor is blaring my 16-month-old son's laughter in my ear. So I jump up, run into his room, and he's standing in his crib pointing at the corner of the room and giggling hysterically. I just stared at him for a few seconds before I grabbed him and put him in bed with me. Once when my toddler was hugging me, he quietly said, "I won't eat your bones." Oh, much obliged. About 3 AM I wake to find my 6-year-old son just standing next to my side of the bed staring at me motionless. It was a very tense moment up to the point I asked him very easily, "You okay, son?" He then came back with, "I can't sleep, but I still wonder how long he stood there before I woke." Not my son, but a friend's son said Uncle C. Jime is gonna die in the water, me and his dad. WTF. How? He's gonna fall from a bridge and die in the water. Walks out of the room laughing he's 4. Posted this before. My 4-year-old son had a habit of announcing when he had to use the bathroom. He would say, "I gotta go potty." One time he makes his business known and heads off toward the bathroom. He returns seconds later and says there's already someone in the bathroom. Now I do know for a fact that it's just the 2 of us home, so the hair stands up on my neck. I ask him, "What do you mean?" He repeats, "There's already someone in the bathroom." Now I'm thinking, is it someone I see dead people or someone in a hockey goalie mask? So I grab the biggest knife from my knife block and tell him to stay here. I walk to the bathroom, take a wide angle to see in. Nobody. Slowly and quietly walk toward the shower and pull back the curtain. Nothing. By now my son has walked around the corner and I ask him, "Where did you see the person?" He points to an unflushed toilet and says, "See, someone's already here." His big brother didn't flush the toilet. Well, this morning I was lying in bed. My almost 2-year-old came up, put her face right up to mine, and I thought maybe she wanted a kiss. Then she said, "Mama, I want to eat your eyes, please." Me. I was the creepy child. When I was around 2, my parents and I moved into a new house. The house had previously been lived in by an elderly man who, surprise surprise, died in the house. It's not something you tell a 2-year-old, so what happened next is either for real creepy or an insane coincidence. My parents usually bragged about how I always slept through the night and never gave them problems. Every night we lived in the house I woke up at the same time crying and telling my mom/dad that I saw the man or the man is here. 2 other incidents occurred around this period of time. The first was I was playing in the bathtub filling cups with water and pouring the water into other cups. Typical toddler bath time sheet. Except for the part where my mom, making conversation with me, asked what I was playing. I'm mixing drinks like when I was a man. There was no way for me to know what mixing drinks was as I wasn't around people who drank hard alcohol. The other incident, my mom found me in the bathroom with my dad's razor and a bleeding lip. She asked me what I was doing, to which I replied, "Shaving, like when I was a man." We didn't live in that house for very long because my parents, quite frankly, were creeped the F out. Now it all could have been just weird coincidence, or it could have been real. I have no recollection of it and never heard the stories until I was an adult, but I will say all the weird behavior stopped the night we moved. I went back to sleeping through the night. Edit: I should add that I'm a female. When my special needs son was 10, he had to have a very serious surgery. It was an 8-hour procedure and it was a pretty risky operation. We did not tell him these risks. Right before they wheeled him into surgery, he hugged me and said goodbye forever. He made it through, and his quality of life was dramatically improved by the surgery. Scariest 8 hours of my life though. My 3-day-old infant was sleeping with rapid eye movements, dreaming. I watched her crack a smile, which deepened and turned into a belly laugh. What does a 3-day-old infant have to dream about that cracks them up? A few weeks ago I was getting breakfast ready for my 3-year-old when he nonchalantly told me his grandma fell down the stairs. About an hour later grandpa calls us to tell us grandma had fallen down the stairs. Also last weekend my 3-year-old said my sister was going to visit the next day, and guess who showed up for a surprise visit? I was watching my at the time 5-year-old nephew and newborn niece. Hez says there's a bunch of guys in the woods while looking out the back of the house. Guys? What do you mean guys? The house butts up against the RR, and there are about 50 yards of woods and bet no one should be out there. There's a bunch of guys in the woods. They're coming up to the house, so now I'm worried. I'm thinking home invasion, as it was common at the time. I go to look, and it's a herd of deer, about 8 to 9 of them. He had me sweating bullets over Bambi. My eldest was roughly 3 at the time. She was and still is into My Little Pony, and as such had a bunch of tiny little ponies to play with. I can fit half a dozen or so in my hand. Anyway, she also had a kitchen she would like to play with. I walk up to her, and she's got some of her ponies in a frying pan on the kitchen stovetop. I ask her what she's doing, and she looks right at me and says these ponies are bacon now. Oh boy. My 3-year-old grandson has babbled about plane crashes since he started talking. He would reenact with toys a plane chasing another plane, and as the first suddenly dropped to the ground he'd yell in a heart-rending scream, "Oh no, we crashed." This was his first sentence. He did this over and over. Early this summer he's 3, and I'm reading him a bedtime story. I pause and look up at him, and he said to me, "Granny, I was a pilot. My plane was the Kitty Hawk. I crashed into the water when they shot it off my wing and shot it off my face. It almost stopped my heart." He looked so troubled and sad. I told him that he had done his best and I was very proud of him, and that he was only a little boy now and needed to not worry about that, but if he needed to talk about it he could anytime. I just hugged him. I researched and Kitty Hawks were used by almost every country early in WW2. I was asking my 3-year-old if he remembered being born, then I asked him if he remembered what happened before he was born because of Reddit threads like this and the creepy answers they sometimes give. Without missing a beat or any prompting from me other than the question, he goes, "I was in a helicopter that go round and round and round then boom into the ground." When my son was 3, he had an existential crisis. He had just discovered death, and every night as I was going to sleep, he would fixate on the fact that everyone is going to die. A lifelong atheist, I found myself talking to him about heaven, just hoping something would reassure him and make him worry less and maybe go to sleep for a few hours. But this nightly anxiety attack over the inevitability of death went on for months. One night, I've calmed him down. He's quiet for a long time. I think he's finally asleep. I'm about to tiptoe out of the room when loud and clear he says, "Mama will die tomorrow." I knew this was just his latest bout of worry, but he said it with such conviction I spent the whole next day holding my breath. Maybe he knew something I didn't. My 2-year-old has a motion censored night light in his room. One night, he wouldn't fall asleep. He kept talking to someone/something and was playing. He hadn't eaten much for dinner, so I decided to get him up for a midnight snack. I made him some macaroni and cheese and fed it to him from a bowl as he sat on the couch and watched TV with me. Suddenly the motion light turned on in his room and provoked. Odd, but whatever. It turned off again, and we went back to watching TV. Suddenly, my son stops and looks down the dark, empty hall leading to his bedroom. His face lit up and he says, "Hi." He runs up to the darkness and starts babbling to it, talking to it. Then he runs back, grabs his fork, puts some mac and cheese on it, runs back to the darkness and holds his fork up to it, like he's trying to feed it. He started getting impatient that it wasn't eating, but kept baby talking it. Finally he gives up, waves and says, "Bye-bye." And then goes back to watching TV like nothing happened. We had had our 17mo foster son for like 2 months at that point. He slept great. We are talking 12+ hours per night, with 90-minute naps a day. He was awesome and we were thrilled. However, after a visit with his mom, he woke up at 3 AM screeching, as if he was on fire. I had never heard a sound that made me jump out of bed, race through my house, and nearly piss myself as I ran. I got to him, and he was barely awake, but still screeching. It took 20 minutes to get him back down. He was sweaty and shaking and snotting all over the place. I did not go back to sleep that night and watched him like a hawk over the camera app on my phone. It never happened again, but once was enough.